after introducing myself, of course, definitely introduce you. So I think we are live now. So welcome everyone. We are getting started right immediately. Welcome to BitFi. And first off, who are we? We are a Bitcoin focused company, dedicated to global Bitcoin education, financial inclusion, and freedom. Here we champion Bitcoin as a tool for economic empowerment and also support Bitcoin focused brands, that drive real adoption. So our mission is to help individuals and businesses leverage Bitcoin for financial sovereignty while also fostering a strong Bitcoin ecosystem across Africa and even beyond. Now, right now in Nigeria, we all have a lot of, mini circular economies as well, under Bitfire, adopting and also joining the crusade of what Bitfire is doing. And we are glad here that we get to talk about one of the most important topics ever, Bitcoin's role in empowering women in Africa. Now, women are the leaders, they control the world, and we need them in this ecosystem. We need them. And here we get to talk about, certain roles that they get to achieve, certain tasks that they can also let us know based on their own experience and their own way of spicing things up in their ecosystem as well. So my name is Barnabas Osegali. I'm also the team lead for Bitcoin Edu. And I'm not here alone. I'm here with the ever delightful Pamela Posada. Quickly, I'll drop a brief intro of who Pamela is. Pamela Posada is a Bitcoin-only YouTube strategist and digital nomad from El Salvador. She is a former fashion designer, empowering women to build financial freedom through Bitcoin communities with sisters who Satoshi, also around Latin America as a whole. So, hi, Pamela. Good to see you.
Oh well, good to finally meet you guys. I really appreciate the kind words and also for invite me. As you say, yeah, I already have like 3 years of Bitcoin journey. I mean, it's still very small in compared with other people, but I since at the beginning that I get to Bitcoin, I just saw one of the problems. And one of the problem was like not many women, right?
That's
And
true.
yeah, one of the reasons I always have the question around me because every time I go to, for example, we in El Salvador we have really different Bitcoin meetups, many casual Bitcoin meetups that just do to people Bitcoiners hang out. So I went to many of those meetups, and majority, and most of the time, no women, right? So
Yeah.
one time somebody asked me like, "Hey, what do you think there are no more women in Bitcoin?" Right? I was like, "Well, that's a really good question." And at that moment, I didn't have like an idea. To be honest, I was like, something it's something is not working, but I don't know what it is. And well, I just took me so a little more time to realize what was the problem in that moment. So yeah, I mean, I'm very excited of what you're doing in Africa. For example, it's another continent, and we know that if we put the humanity in a chart, it's kind of different. It's difficult to compare it because every country, even in Latin America, every country is different. So the adoption is different.
That's true. Very, very true. That's true. But then again, we get to also share ideas.
Hmm.
Ideologies and concepts are global. And of course,
Yeah.
Bitcoin is global. So definitely you'll be able to integrate one or two things and even, be updated with what, the global community is also
Hmm.
working with. And, one of the most significant ways that Bitcoin empowers African women is by enabling
Hmm.
financial independence through reliance, without the reliance on banks, collaterals or patriarchal, approval
Hmm.
systems. And in our many African societies, women still encounter, challenges in even opening bank accounts, accessing
Hmm.
loans, or even managing properties due to gender biases or even lack of documentation. We have,
Yeah.
several countries in Africa, where most of the citizens still use hard currencies. They don't have
Hmm.
access to even a digital centralized bank account. So Bitcoin's,
Hmm.
decentralized nature means that women only need a mobile phone and just internet connection to create a digital wallet. Now, this simple
Yeah.
requirement, creates a powerful shift, allowing women to store, send, and of course receive valuable, secure, and of course private, you know, means of transferring you know, currencies for the very first time. So the autonomy that Bitcoin provides also helped women establish personal savings, also invest and manage funds without interference from spouses, relative, and restrictive institutions, and like we
Mhm.
have in most cases here in Africa. In some countries, some women are not even allowed to open bank accounts without, the
Mhm.
spouse, being aware of it. But Bitcoin creates that form of autonomy. So it plays a
Mhm.
significant role in supporting African women entrepreneurs, when women operate micro and even small businesses that depend on cross-border trades or even access to suppliers and customers, across different regions. So
Mhm.
definitely tonight we get to hear a lot about what El Salvador has done and what Latin America has also done as a whole, and
Yeah.
we get to learn a whole lot as well. So definitely we have a lot of questions in mind. But first off, we want to hear a bit from you before we get down to a couple of Q&As. So
Yeah.
please, over to you, please.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned about what I mean. I know that countries right now, countries like in Africa, like in Latin America, we already know that they're the people that really need Bitcoin because El Salvador, most people know that it's a Bitcoin country, but
Yes.
it's still like a developed country. It's a third world country. It's really poor. I mean, if you are outside of San Salvador, the lifestyle, the quality things are just different. I mean, the reality is different. Maybe it's not like extremely poverty like in other countries, but I cannot just say it's not happening. Can be, but they are small. They can be maybe in a small amount that in other countries. So, for example, in Salvador, we have the problem that first technology, as you say, we have Salvadorians, not just women. Salvadorians, they don't have bank accounts most of the time because, well, they don't believe in the system. That's also another reason. They don't believe in the bank system because they prefer to have the money on their hands, like cash. So we have, for example, so you can go to a restaurant and you can go to a shopping mall and you can spend your with that card. But for example, if I want to go to my neighbor and I want to buy, I don't know, in a mini market, for example, small amounts of things, they're gonna only ask me just for cash. They don't have, for example, the system to accept card, or they want to receive another. Even for example, even you can transfer money to a bank account to another. They don't like that. They just prefer to have it on time on the same. They prefer just physically to touch it. And
Yeah.
other thing that it's happening that, for example, many Salvadorians, they, for example, all generations, they prefer, for example, my grandmother or people like in the 60s or around 40s and 60s, they just prefer to have money under the mattress because they don't believe that the system work, and I 100% with them. We know that the bank system doesn't work, but at the end your money is still devaluated because as a matter you put your money in the mattress, this money, at least in El Salvador, we have our currency, the US dollar. So it's not like when you go to Colombia that they have pesos, Colombian pesos, or in Paraguay, that Paraguay they have a different currency that is Guarani. So El Salvador, we are still fighting against inflation because inflation is everywhere. And in women, we're talking just about women. Women, though, are not the most friendly ones with technology. I mean, guys are the ones that they prefer to start to releasing more about technology, what the things that you can do with technology and Bitcoin, even if we know that it's really good for everyone. Bitcoin have two things that most women don't. It's not the most comfortable thing that they prefer. For example, technology and money. Money and technology are the two things that women are not doing. For example, they don't save like men does, or they don't invest like men do. So it's like technology is one of the problems because also technology we believe is more like something for just guys things because for example it's like, oh, who is the ones that are studying web developer, who is the one that is studying system engineer, those careers that requires technology or a few an idea or a knowledge about what is happening in the digital world. And women are not. We are more afraid to those things because we are more in the side of protect that, for example, take risk like men. Men are the ones that try to take risks in the early years. For example, the 20s. Guys just, for example, finish the school and they start to decide, oh, I need to do money. I need to create money and I have to invest this and have this. And in 5 years, I have to have this amount of money. Women don't think in that way. Women think more like, okay, I would like to do that, but I have to do some things before, like very protective. They try to be very protective about the money,
Mm.
and they're more like in compared with guys, it's more like they prefer to do risk in the early days and then and don't regret later. But women prefer just to keep the things that they have, because at the end, women femininity energy is more like protect. It's more like be close to things that you have. For example, they try to, for example, that's why we have families, that women are the ones that try to protect and have the family, like everything works, and guys are the ones, for example, that try to um, support in financial ways. So women need to understand that financial freedom doesn't have to be depending on the bank. Financial freedom is something that can help you to your next generation. It's for your future. It's just not for yourself. It's also for your family. It's also for your community. Women are the ones that can join communities, because as if, for example, if we're talking about different roles, for example, if you and I, we try to be sell people, we try to sell, probably I'm gonna be the better seller, because I'm more in the way to talk, to be empathy, to
That's
be
true.
more it's just about sometimes I know that roles are right now they're kind of different, but women are still there are things that women do better than guys, and there at the same time, in the same way that guys are better doing some things than women. So at the end,
Ex-
it's like if we try to keep those things away, or if we try to be on the, for example, women, if we try to try to get more women to Bitcoin, in long term can be more can be more powerful, because women try to join communities, trying to join families, because they try to put everyone together, and also they try to be more clear, try to be, I mean, with you try to talk about with a guy in orange pill about Bitcoin, it's like, oh, Bitcoin is decentralized, Bitcoin is 21 million coins, you can get rich, you can mining, whatever. You can talk about the code. With women, you cannot just start with a tech talk, because it just doesn't get any idea to women about it. It's more like you have to be, if you want to orange peel a women, for example, you have to talk about more about daily life. What are you investing right now? Many women don't even invest. Many women don't even save, because we already know that we have a global society problem, that the salaries are not enough for anything. So women are more in the side of consuming. What they're consuming beauty supply, beauty products that they don't need, clothes that they don't need. They have a big clothes wardrobe, some things that just use one time. So we have the mainstream media, they teach women to just consume and don't to try to save, and not just money. Well, even Bitcoin, they don't understand to save money. That's why they don't get to understand say on Bitcoin. So yeah, it's a path to just to try to get to women to first, what is money, why your money is broken, why your money is not enough, why you have to understand that, for example, the many other women that believe that the guy in their life, for example, a husband or a boyfriend, they have to be the one care or charge on care about the financial situation. But at the end, if we're talking about families or partners, you also need to care about money, because at the end we are not really know about Bitcoin is about your Bitcoin is only yours if you have your own keys. It's the same with this. It's the same about money. It's your money only if you know about where's your money, if you can control your money. But if you only give to that idea or that job just to one person, and you really didn't care how much how much money do you have, how this is gonna work, or just in which bank account do you have it. It's like you are really don't know if you have money. So yeah, it's just a education way that try to get to one time, for example, a small really a small talks to then to get to women to understand Bitcoin in a really deepest way.
That's true. Well, thank you so much. I was very, very insightful. I must appreciate that. We at
Yeah.
Bitfire, we've also done a couple of programs to,
Hmm.
help in Africa. We're in Africa, fully based in Africa. Although we are global, but we have done a lot of things in Africa, especially for women. One of those things we've done
Hmm.
is the Bitcoin education program.
Hmm.
We've also done the financial literacy program, which also help participants learn about money management, just like
Hmm.
what you're doing right now. Teaching women how to save, how to invest, of course, how to borrow, and even how to spend wisely. And this is
Hmm.
aimed towards, helping women to manage personal and even business finances more effectively. And of course, the women in fintech programs, targeting women who are also interested in entering the broader fintech industry, through
Hmm.
workshops, mentorships, and even certification courses. And women in Africa, well, one of the most things that I would say that we've really achieved in Africa here, and the financial independence, by equipping women with tools and even the knowledge of Bitcoin and digital finance. Bitfi has enabled them to manage money independently, even
Hmm.
outside of traditional banks, which may have exclusionary practices or may require documentation, which some women may lack. So of course, another thing we've also done is the access to global digital economy, something that African women really need. Through Bitcoin literacy, women can access borderless digital financial systems, saving, receiving remittances from overseas, doing businesses online without
Hmm.
even needing the conventional banking system, which is a very big one for women who are in rural economies, and
Hmm.
in informed, areas. And of course, learning about money management can never be overemphasized. Digital currencies and fintech set up women not only for personal financial growth, but also for careers in fintechs, and related industry. So this helps to, bring a gap between the fintech, the finance, the fintech, and even the Bitcoin economy itself. And also, like you said, breaking social and gender norms. I really love the fact that you're able to mention that, because some persons feel that, women can handle some parts, but here women are really showing themselves, showcasing, they have leading the trail and letting us know that, okay, these are certain things that we can do, these are certain things that women can achieve. And through the promotion of the integration of the Bitcoin economy into our own local or domestic economy, we get to
Hmm.
bridge the gap and also promote global economic partnership. It could be in form of finance, it could be in form of sales, it could be in form of economic exchanges, even goods and services. You never can tell. Gone are those days where you want to buy something overseas and the person tells you, oh, you need to go through the bank, and the bank tells you, oh, you can't send above so and so amount, you need to send a specific amount. Gone are those days. Now with a Bitcoin wallet, you can send unlimited
Hmm.
amount of money, within a second. It
Yeah.
gets and you receive it, and it of course makes things easy. So we over here, we have a lot. We've done a whole lot as well, and we've touched down different countries. We've touched Ghana, we've touched Nigeria, we've touched a couple of Western countries, Eastern countries, and because of that, I could say that the work we've done has also built a significant hood, not just in Africa, but overseas in terms of what we've done, for women. But of course, a lot of information doesn't really hurt. So hence the reason why we are also here to also gain insight from what you've done. And I'm gonna ask, just one or two questions based on
Yeah.
your credible and wonderful experience, so that we could, of course, learn and see how we could have navigate one or two things here.
Hmm.
So one of the things I'm going to ask is, how has Bitcoin helped women in Latin America, to navigate inflation, unstable banking system, and even currency devaluation? And what lessons can African women learn from this? Because in some countries, of course, inflation it's like a global thing right now. So
Mhm.
how do we, manage this? And how has Bitcoin also helped in Latin America so that we could also, implement it over here as well?
Yeah. For example, one thing that I think it's we have to make women's understand is about the meaning about sovereignty. Sovereignty. Not many women understand the word or even hear about it. It's like sovereignty is one of the things that I think to me really resonate with me in my time when I was living in El Salvador. Right now, I just say I'm digital nomad. But when I was in El Salvador, I just don't feel that I have sovereignty. And it's not just sovereignty about financial situation. It's also about your time or what things are your country leave you do or what things are just restricted. For example, what you say about if you want to go to the ATM or go to the bank and you want to take off your money, they're not gonna let you, even if it's
Yes.
yours. I mean, it's yours, but at the end, it's like they can have the ability to say no, and that's one of the things I try to make women understand. First, like the idea to Bitcoin can be scary because there are many people that at least in El Salvador it was well no sorry it's everywhere that people still believe that it's a scam, that Bitcoin is a scam, and in El Salvador it was not the something different. People really believe it was a scam. It was from the government. It was a government coin, so really, people didn't want to get into Bitcoin. Salvadorians didn't want to understand Bitcoin at that moment because it was like, oh, that's maybe from the government, maybe it's from Bukele. So, so at the end, it was like I think that women needs to understand first what is the money, what is money about, because not many people understand how what money works. Not many people outside of Bitcoin they understand about what is happening with the printing money problem that we have. And so I just try to tell them first about how is Bitcoin work. For example, sale of Bitcoin, it's more worth it to do it now. Doesn't matter how much, can be a small amount, because at the end you have to learn how Bitcoin works. And I'm not gonna tell to somebody, oh yeah, put your save for your full savings on Bitcoin if you don't even understand how is Bitcoin work.
True.
Because the idea of Bitcoin is that first you have to do self custody, so just custody what you can understand, if it, what you or how much put how much time also can put to understand how Bitcoin works. For example, just have to put $20, understand how that work. You can put another $20 in the next month, $5. They don't have to be like constantly like in the same amount, but just put money that you think that you don't need in the short term, something like it's not like you need to take withdraw in a few months because we know that the price is very volatile. The price is not volatile because of Bitcoin, it's because the US dollar is volatile. But not many people understand how that works. So they say, oh, just Bitcoin dropped from 80k to 70k. It's like, no, it's because we always compare the price of Bitcoin price in present with the dollar. The dollar is the one that it always change it. So yeah, we have to make them understand first how Bitcoin works in the small amounts, because at the end it's like they don't have to do big risk investing to things that they're not gonna understand. Because at the end it's like, oh, if I had to put like $1,000 that I don't even have, it's maybe not for me. So they need to understand that Bitcoin, you can save Bitcoin in a small amounts. They don't have to be bigger amounts. And also another thing that they have to understand is like sovereignty is not just about financial situation, it's also about your time. Your retire plans, it's another thing that many people right now care about. What am I gonna do here and from today to 30 years? Do you gonna have money? Your retirement savings are safe? Because at the end, for example, that it depends for the government. We already many situations that happened in the past that the saving your retirement plans, they just stole it. So
True.
I always tell them, are you really looking for trust what the government does? Because we have many different situations, historics in the past, that they really understand that we don't have to trust everything that the government tell us. So if we have to have the ability to just give 5 minutes on our time to ask to ChatGPT or Google it, whatever you want, instead to be scrolling social media, that at the end is not worth it, that in the end is that idea that you always get distracted from Main Street, to don't give the time to really understand things that happen in the world. I mean, you
That's
can
true.
watch whatever in social media and just get distracted and completely don't understand what is money situation happen. For example, if I want to speak with somebody of my friends and say, hey, have you ever noticed that your money is not working the same 5 years ago? They're like, oh yeah, but maybe it's because inflation. It's like, do you know how inflation works? People really just repeat things that they believe that it's correct, because at the end, that's why governments, society told us that that's correct. But if when people start to asking just a small question that, what is money? What is inflation? What do
True.
you think banks work? I mean, it's like, do you understand that your money is printing every day? Do you know what Bitcoin? It's different. It's a limit amount, and at the end, scarcity also give you that powerful thing that it's like safe in a trust way. When you understand that printing money, it's the reason your money is devaluated every month, and it's every month, every day your money is devaluating. But of course, you don't see it in the short term, because it's just cents. You say, it's $1 with 10 cents, or oh yeah, next month is $1 with 21 cents. So it's like you only see it in the small amounts, and you start to understand. Yeah, it's normal. It's just inflation. But then
True.
for example, if you talk to people and say, or at least to women, to again, it's just lived experience. It's everything about just stories, just telling like, hey, do you see that your parents have a house? Why you don't have a house? Why is it not possible to you to buy your own house with the same years that your family did, or just with one income? Now you need two incomes, and maybe you can find a house. Because now, even in El Salvador, even if you have two incomes, doesn't mean that you can
It's not enough.
you're gonna own a house. Maybe in the Western countries can still happen, but at least in El Salvador, that everything's getting expensive, and also the incomes and this minimum salary is the most common salary in El Salvador. It's the average salary, the minimum salary. So if you, for example, in El Salvador is less than $400, and the rents for on a small, really small apartment can be like $400. How you even? It's not possible to you even to rent. So
Yeah.
what is happening? Many people are still living there with their parents. 30 years old, 25 years old. It's like they're still living with their parents. So you cannot be independent at the same time that your parents did. Or even if you're married tomorrow, it's like not worth it, because at the end it's like, oh, I'm still living with my parents. I don't know. It's
True.
like some
That's
some
true.
small things that some small things that you, for example, in El Salvador work, it's like specific with women is to try to understand the feeling, because women connect with emotions. Women not connect with the brain. Women need to be connected with emotions. That in this case, this stories is like, okay, that's heartbroken. You start to understand that your life is not the same. Work, your price of your life is not the same like your price of your parents.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much. And from the comment you just made, that was where my
Mhm.
next question is actually coming from,
Yeah.
which is from financial literacy. You
Mhm.
said a whole lot about it, and that's why I'm asking how important is financial literacy, when introducing Bitcoin to women, and
Mhm.
what strategies, most importantly, the strategies that has worked best in Latin America that African educators can actually adopt
Mhm.
unusable here.
To be honest, most of the time, um, to connect with this kind of, for example, financial literacy that we know is a big lack of women to understand those things is like first connect the dots. Most of the times we have to give to women to give a brief because at the end it's like too much information, right? It's like, oh yeah, this sounds so bad, but at the end, for example, I try to women do their own questions. They have their own questions and they have their own time to have the answers. But at the end, it's like when they try to connect it all, it's like, but that was this. What is this word? What is, for example, even if we talk about real estate, that it's another bubble that not most women understand. It's like, okay, so to help them to connect with the financial literacy is just to get more like the ones that are more interested about those topics are the ones that are gonna jump to Bitcoin because it's just it's like yeah I cannot force the women to understand it because in the end I'm gonna look at crazy women try to make them so hard to understand something that they believe is crazy, they believe it's a scam. So I just give to the ones that they're really interested, for example, or way to work so in with Sister of Satoshi is like first do a small casual meetups like nothing we call it women in Bitcoin, and we say this is an invitation to women Bitcoiners already and women enthusiasts on Bitcoin, because we know that many of these women believe that Bitcoin is just an investing. So they come to these meetups, they gonna understand that with different perspective, women in the Bitcoin space and also women that are not in the Bitcoin space, they're gonna understand, oh, this is not what I was thinking it was Bitcoin. I was thinking that I can get rich, right? Because everyone wants to get rich, and they believe like, oh,
Yes,
how can I do my money like into 1 year like get to this amount of money? It's like, I mean, you're talking about trading, you're talking about gambling. It's a technology, digital gambling. But I just tell them, well, I don't recommend it to you to do gambling because at the end it's like at the same way that you can win, you can lose.
true.
So, and also it's not something that I personally do. I personally do is do value per value. That's mean that I work in the Bitcoin space to receive a salary, to receive my money for a project in Bitcoin. So that's my way to people try to communicate with women. Also, it's like, for example, if you want to sell something, selling you can also offer in Bitcoin, and it's only a small way to you can start to understand that it's value per value. Because right now, when you have a credit card, you don't understand the value of the money anymore because like you don't even touch it. For example, to most people in Latin America, it's like, oh, if I have a $20, it's not the same as if I have a $5 because the $5 is easy to spend. It's like, oh yeah, I need a small cash, so I just do a small purchase, and then the end of $5 is gone, and then you have a $20 bill, a $20 bill. That's like, oh, I don't want to use it because I have to spend more money. So it's like you start to get a little bit more conscious about your spending. So when you have a car, it's like, oh, I just put in the car and just gone. You don't even care how much it was, and you don't even care about how it works. So when you have Bitcoin, even if it's digital, you can, for example, if it's Lightning, you can so that instantly go to your wallet. And when people go see that in real time, it's like, that's how it happened. It's just mine. It's like the people just get to that idea, like that small feeling, like, oh, now I have Bitcoin, and they say, yeah, it's that's Bitcoin, how Bitcoin works. But I try to women first to go to these meetups to first hear another experience, because at the end it's not like my own experience. I just try to be like a bridge between understanding the knowledges and have the space that they can ask questions that sometimes they can be judged, because that's why women don't go to Bitcoin, because they feel that they're gonna be judged. Even if you go to El Salvador, we have many Bitcoin meetups. Women don't go because when you go, it's like you're the only one, the only women in the room. You're the only woman in the room. So it's like, oh yeah, I don't gonna even question about, I just gonna listen. But then it's like If you're not asked question, you're always gonna have uh those doubts about what is Bitcoin work. So we
That's very
try to give the space. Like we try just to give the space to ask. For example, the financial literacy that you say is like they're gonna ask the question, oh, and how that works, and what is inflation, what is a mortgage? They don't even know what the mortgage it is, or what is a whatever other term that they just listen but they don't understand. And at the end, it's like we have those meetings, those meetups. We have like at least once a month, and if the women come back, that's great, because at the end we try to give the space to these women understand. And then when they come back, they usually want more. And it's like, oh, where I can find more information about it. And it's like, okay, this is the places that you can get information. For example, we have in El Salvador, we have My First Bitcoin, that they gave you the diploma to which if you go to these classes and then you get a diploma, the Bitcoin diploma. So we always recommend, oh, you can have a Bitcoin diploma, you can go to find education like for free. I mean, it's you don't gonna have to invest anything to go to those places and have more classes. Or at the end, also we also like we sister of Satoshi. We sometimes we have mini classes, like small classes, but at the end, it's like it's not the beginning. It's not at the beginning because at the end, not many women assist to these classes. So not many women do this jump, so they take a while to just to get to those things. But at the end, it's like we have the ability to give the tools, and then they decide.
Okay, thank you so much. So, on a
Mhm.
global scene, in your own opinion, I'd like to know
Mhm.
what is the most misunderstood aspect of Bitcoin amongst women, in developing nations or developing regions, and how can Bitcoiners bridge that knowledge gap in between?
Can you repeat the question at the beginning? I didn't understand. Sorry.
What is the most misunderstood
Mm,
aspect of Bitcoin, amongst women in developing regions, not just in Africa,
mm,
but in other continents in the globe? And how can Bitcoin advocates, bridge that
mm.
knowledge gap?
For example, the misunderstand about Bitcoin is like they believe it's a scam.
Yeah,
And some of them, because we also have some women that been interested before on Bitcoin, but they have bad experience, because we know that Bitcoin education get to this point on this level. We're still growing. We still try to help to people, but at the beginning of Bitcoin, it was really small about what Bitcoin mean or how Bitcoin works. So many people get a scam in that time. So the first feeling about Bitcoin, it was like it's a scam, or they have a previous experience before that they believe this didn't work, or sometimes they believe that Bitcoin is just for rich people, for investors. They believe that you have to put this amount of money, because at the end, when you start looking for Bitcoin, for example, you Google Bitcoin, you're gonna see in Google like many and the search bar like many websites that told you, oh yeah, $500 in Bitcoin, invest today, and you're gonna have $1,000 in a month. So yeah, even if we are talking about $5, if I already told you that El Salvador minimum salary is $400, it's a lot of money to them. It's a lot of money. It's like a big risk investing. So at the end, is that if they believe that if you have to put too much money in something, and then
yeah,
they don't even understand. That's the problem that most of the time is like don't even understand why you're gonna put money in something that you don't understand. It's the same. For example, you're not gonna buy a house without seeing it. You
true.
don't have to buy. You're not gonna buy Bitcoin if you're not even on try to understand or try to self custody or try to have a small amount. For example, I try to tell to people, to women, it's like put a small amount that even if you have the risk to lose because you don't understand it, at least this is the only good is it gonna be the only way to you push yourself to learn a little bit more. Because for example, many of these women, they understand Bitcoin for websites like Binance or
Yeah,
Coinbase. that we
Yes.
already that the end they are like exchange. They are not
Yes.
wallets. They are not a place that you have to save your Bitcoin. And I told them, just try to put your money outside of this exchange. Take too much effort to do it because at the end they don't want that you put your money outside of this exchange. So they have a big fees. They have a really small protocols that are really complicated just to figure out how to put your money away to them. So I just told them, just try to put a small. If you would still want to put money in Binance, because at the end I'm not your financial advisor, but
Yeah.
just
True.
try to put a small amount in a wallet that you can do self custody. For example, Blue Wallet. Blue Wallet is an open source wallet that if you are learning and you are a beginner, it's a really good way to start to put small amounts in a wallet that you can understand is yours. I also try to let them know about the C phrase, how the C phrase is very important, and how did you have to understand that it's not just a few words and you're gonna put a screenshot in your phone and everything is safe. No, because right now with this digital society that we are living today, it's like you have an iPhone and you iPhone have the access to all your social media accounts because with your Face ID you have the already your keys or your passwords are already in an app inside your iPhone. So at the end, it's like
Yeah.
you don't have to trust to everything that give to the digital. We don't have to give to technology the access to everything in your life. And
Yes.
even if you're doing it right now, because it's just access, it's very easy to access.
Yes.
It's not the same. Doesn't work the same with Bitcoin. So we have
Oh,
to understand, or make them women understand that the things that they already know misunderstand about Bitcoin are not true.
okay. Thank you so much. So moving down
Hmm.
to Africa, um,
Hmm.
we you know that a lot of African women are involved in small scale businesses, and entrepreneurship activities. How can
Hmm.
Bitcoin practically support their daily business activities? How can we incorporate these Bitcoin ecosystem into their daily business activities for both small scale and even the medium enterprises?
For example, here in El Salvador, the one of the things that well, Bitcoin country, right? So Bitcoin country gave us the opportunity to continue an adoption because if you want to people understand or for example use Bitcoin on daily basis, they have to accept. They have to be places that accept Bitcoin. And I know, for example, places like Africa or even in Paraguay, in Colombia, there are not many restaurant, for example, or grocery store or services that you can they accept Bitcoin. So what happened? People believe that if I cannot invest because well, if we're talking about places like El Salvador that are very poor, we need to understand that they're also looking for in a short term maybe they're gonna sell. So they need to have places to accept Bitcoin to have the experience to okay, this is value per value. So that for example that's how this very I would say kind of success because at the end the adoption curve in El Salvador is still small but it's bigger in compared with other countries. For example Paraguay, Colombia, Brazil, you can still live in a kind of Bitcoin standard in El Salvador. But for example also we have to understand why stable coins can make a big difference in these countries because if they understand that stable coins is also a way to swap your money and you can be aware that the price didn't change
Yeah.
because that's also another thing that for example women are scared if we're talking about daily basis if you're talking about you need money in your daily life because you need food every day, right? So they need to understand okay if we can convert a few amount of bitcoin like for something like living. For example, to me, I'm a digital nomad, so I don't have to buy Bitcoin. I have to sell Bitcoin to live because at the end, it's like how fiat system works. So how I
Yeah.
can do it? It's just for places like well, it's with apps like stable coins. That's why stable coins can be also beneficial for places like Africa, for places like El Salvador, Paraguay, Colombia, all Latin America, because if we don't have a place or restaurants or services that accept Bitcoin, because I know that it's more difficult to get to Orangefield services and many entrepreneurs to, but for example, many entrepreneurs can accept Bitcoin, but then they have the problem, how can I use it? How can I spend this Bitcoin? I mean, at the end, it's money. So money have to be like a medium exchange. So they have to, in a way, they have to also spend it. So if they don't have places to spend, we have to use something like stable coins to.
That's very, very true. Thank you very, very
Mhm.
much. One more. I'm really enjoying the session actually. So
That's
much.
great, you
So,
too.
what practical security advice, would you recommend to African women, who want to use Bitcoin safely without falling victims to scams? You know,
Mm,
especially for persons who stay in developing communities or rural communities or rural economies. How then can they
mhm.
balance this, especially when you now have, like we mentioned earlier, we talked about integrating the Bitcoin ecosystem into small and medium enterprises. So, what leverage or what steps can we take to ensure that in trying to adopt the system, we don't run into scams, we don't
Mhm.
run into certain elements and want to use the Bitcoin ecosystem as a means to scam others of their hard funds. So,
Yeah. For example, what we do here in El Salvador is like, if somebody wants to invest, for example, in Bitcoin, it's like this is the tools that we recommend them because they're open source. At the end, it's like if you, that's the great thing about open source, like you can feel more safe that you trust to an entity, because open source for everyone. Open source, like, I mean, I'm not a developer, so I know that maybe to me it's like I know the one that are gonna contribute to the system in that way, but it's like that's why it exists. So if we give tools that they are open source to this place, to these women, it's like you can understand it's not just one entity. It's not depending on
yes,
one person. It's depending on one ecosystem that web developers or developers in general are doing the best to make these tools safe and secure in complete different way that a third party. Another thing I will say is like at the same, if you have to be careful about Bitcoin in the way that you don't tell it to people how much money you have in the bank account. So you don't have to tell to people how much money you have on Bitcoin, or don't trust to people to say to see your Bitcoin. It's like doesn't matter if it's in your phone on your smartphone. You don't have to show that because at the end you don't know in the long term how that work. I mean, today can be $20 in Bitcoin, but we know we are really bullish about the price of Bitcoin in a few years. So those $20, if somebody know that, it's like can be also uh we don't know how it's gonna be the society in a few years about Bitcoin. People are still start to understand Bitcoin, and it feels like a small bubble, but one day that bubble can explode. And for example, that's I would recommend that like just be careful with who you're talking about, what is with your amount of Bitcoin. But that's one of the tools I will that's one of the ways I recommend to women to try to don't get a scam. It's like don't trust a third party if you don't understand how that works, or even if you, that's why, for example, that's why we have many banks that get bankrupt, and then you say, oh, but it was in the bank. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it's your money. You can feel that way. It's just when you go to the ATM and you want to withdraw a amount of money, you have some restriction, and even if it's your money. So it's like you start to understand that it's the system at the end is not your money is not dependent only on you. It's depending on
yes,
third party that at the end they can choose to say yes or just choose to say no. Or tomorrow they say, oh, we are bankrupt, we don't have money. So yeah, what happened with your savings? The most important thing in your life is like your savings. So yeah, it's like I prefer to women understand, even in, like as I told you, like very emotional, because women connect with emotion, women connect with future, women connect with family. Even if there are no mothers, for example, there are no moms, they can understand because they live with a family situation. It's like your family, how your you're depending, or your family is dependent on that money at the end.
Okay, thank you so much. So, moving on from there, from your own hands-on experience, I would really like
Mhm.
to hear from your own, personal knowledge and from what you've also gained so far. What is your most practical first step that you think an African woman with zero financial or even tech background, can start with, to start using Bitcoin safely and efficiently?
How women? That's really interesting question. Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, from your own
Yeah.
experience,
Uh-huh. See.
all you've gained over the
Hmm.
years, I'd like to know what would you recommend as the most practical first steps that
Hmm.
African women with zero financial knowledge or zero tech
Hmm.
background can take to start using Bitcoin safely and effectively.
Well, I most of the time talk about consuming. Because people say, oh, because I don't have money, how I'm gonna invest in Bitcoin? It's like, well,
Yeah.
what you're consuming right now. Check what you're using your Bitcoin. Well, sorry, what how you're using your money already. Where are you putting your money, and see what things are really necessary in your life. Because at the end, it's like people, for example, women are consuming things just because we saw in social media, we saw a sponsor, we saw an event, we saw a famous person, a famous actress using this product. And it's like, at the end, it's everything is about consuming. It's a really good marketing. It's at the end, that's what marketing work, and it's to buy things. And so in the long term, I really, you're investing your money, or spending your money in something that really meaningful, because some people believe that you have to do big commitments to just buy Bitcoin, and it's not necessary. You just like, okay, if you are eating like many garbage, for example, Trump food, it's like, well, maybe spend less in those things and try to put money in something more worth it. Or if, for example, you go to party every week, it's necessary. It's not good. It's not even good for your body. It's not good, really good for your health. And even if you're young, it's like you're gonna regret sooner or later about it, because not only about your money, it's also about your time, how you're investing your time. So it's like small things, like just be aware about your surroundings, be aware of what you're putting your money out right now. It's like, uh, yeah, there are things that you're superficial. There are things that they're not even necessary in your life, but you're still consuming. So just do a list of things that you really necessary, and then you can start to understand that how Bitcoin can work in your daily life. It's like, put a little, instead to buy those, I don't know, that is expensive makeup, that maybe you don't need too much makeup. It's like, buy less makeup and maybe save that money in Bitcoin.
Yes. Thank you so much. Very, very nice. Moving down to, it was based on the statement you made earlier, on career,
Mhm.
building a career in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I derived my question from there, and I said I was going to ask. So, from your own global experience, what are the most accessible entry points for African women, who want to start a career in Bitcoin with, even without, a technical background, like, some persons?
Oh well, I would, every time that we are speaking in this interview and this meetings, it's this sorry, this YouTube sessions, like I really want to see African women in real life, because I just say society changed in different perspectives, and women at the end, like energy, feminine energy is around women. So I will say that what was the question? Sorry.
How do women start a career? How can African women start up a career, in Bitcoin and the ecosystem
Oh,
without the
I
technical
mean,
background?
I mean, I think it's about sovereignty. I will say it's the key about sovereignty because when I was started about Bitcoin, it was not because I want to get rich. It was because I really want to have the ability to control my own body, my own time, my own money. So when even if you don't have a technical background, even if you don't understand, even if you only have a phone, a smartphone, that's enough to start to educate it. You don't have to spend or invest in. Oh, for example, there are many people that say, "I'm gonna show you how Bitcoin works. Get to my course, my crypto course, or my Bitcoin
Yeah,
course." And the end is like, yeah, you can spend money on that. At the end, it's your money, right? But you can have many free tools just if you have and you do the time. And many people and mostly women don't make the time because we always around things in our head like we wake up early, we go to our 95 jobs, you go to your work after you work, you go to your home very tired, very at the end you don't have any reasons to feel like fully energized, right? It's like you're living in a just in a trap. Really routines are not bad. Really, they are not bad. They are good habits. But in the end, if you don't feel like meaningful to do those things, it's like, well, you have to do some time in your tired schedule to just start to do the questions, to start to understand that with a smartphone you can have access to everything. And for example, to me, I was fashion designer in El Salvador. Any idea how Bitcoin work, how YouTube it is, or in that moment I was looking for a remote work to work remotely because I really want to experience like traveling. In that moment, I didn't have I never traveled in my life before Bitcoin. Well, maybe Central America, but it's like no big traveling experience. So when I was in that time to just adapt to something new, to understand that maybe my career was not enough for trouble for do something different in my life, or even to in that moment I feel like fashion designer designing it was not one on the most profitable careers. Well, I need to switch. I need to do something in my life if I want to if I want to have different experience. Because if you always do the same, how do you believe they're gonna have something different in in the
that's
rest? I
true.
mean, it's like if you always repeat the same, nothing is gonna change. So you have to do the change. You have to do the time. You have to do the effort. In that moment, I was like, I need to understand something like video editing. I never did video editing in my life because it was not part of my career. How I did it? I didn't spend money in a course. I just Google and just go to Google. I just go to Google. Just go to YouTube. There are many videos about it just to small videos to how to you can use some tools, and then when you go to you have more experience, you start to looking for something more deep, and then that's how the same of Bitcoin. It's like your experience with something small and you go too deep more and you got to that rabbit hole. It's like just you have to do the effort, you have to do the time, and you don't have to put so much money about it. It's just about energy and time.
Oh, true. Um, Definitely we'll have a lot of programs coming up in
Yeah.
Africa very soon, and I'm definitely hoping that you join us. We'll definitely invite
Mm,
you to join us so that you get
yeah.
to see a lot of female Bitcoiners, a lot of female advocates here who are
Uh-huh.
doing wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful things. So, based off of what you just said, um, I believe the summary of it is that there are different skills that one can
Hmm.
also learn in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Both the professional skills, if inclusive on the Bitcoin education, the Bitcoin writing, even coding, community building,
Hmm.
security training. I believe these are also professional um, skills that African women can also focus on developing as well as we link
Yeah.
up with our
Yeah.
counterparts in the international scene. So
Yeah, and
I think that
sorry for
okay,
interrupting. I just want
yeah,
to add, for example, many people on Bitcoin believe, for example, that if I'm in Bitcoin, I should work on Bitcoin. Not necessary. I mean, you only need to understand Bitcoin, how Bitcoin works, and how Bitcoin you can be your life changer, the here to your future. I mean, it's like you don't have to be working in a Bitcoin space, but you need to understand how Bitcoin works. Because at the end, it doesn't matter if you're still with your 9 to 5 job. If that's what you want, if, for example, you don't have opportunities more like just to keep that job. I'm not gonna tell you, oh, yes, do drop everything and just to keep Bitcoin, and maybe that's not gonna work for don't. It's not gonna work for you, but I can tell you, start to save on Bitcoin. Start to just to have an idea you're saving on Bitcoin. You give to your life too much hope, because my life we was kind of depressed in the past. It's like nothing that's really working. The society is not really working. Money was broke. It's still broke, but now I feel more hope in the society just to know that I'm saving on Bitcoin.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, I think this should be one of the last sets of questions we'll be having tonight. So, many African women they sometimes struggle with limited mentorship opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and so how can they find quality mentors, mentors that won't scam them? Because when you go online, you see a whole lot of persons,
Mm-hmm.
each person telling you, "Oh, come join in, I give you lifetime mentorship and all of that,"
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes turn out to be fake. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
they some of these persons leverage on others, for ulterior motives. So, how can they find
Yeah.
mentors? How can they network and even communities that support women pursuing Bitcoin careers? Like,
Mm-hmm.
which women do you think that we should probably look up to in the global space? Although if you've done excellently well, of course, we are also following what you're doing online. So,
Mm-hmm.
who else do you think that okay, these persons are valuable persons whose insights should always be looked at?
Mm-hmm. Well, first I will say to look for mentors. Well, you can ask to someone in your surrounds. That's okay, because at the end, that's how your circle work. It's first you're gonna looking for your surrounds, but one thing I will recommend to everyone is like, don't trust, verify. If somebody is
Yeah.
asking you for money, it's like maybe you should give a time to just trust that person, for example, because at the end, if there's somebody truly Bitcoiner, if you really want to help you, if for example it's somebody already in your circle, they're gonna give you answers without asking for money, for example. And then and there are many other people, Bitcoin educators, that really somebody in the space. I mean, X is really one of the places that you can find that people. But at the end, it's like just do your own research, because at the end, it's don't trust, verify. And that's why most women don't do their job, because they are like they don't have the time. So just do the time to spend a few minutes on your daily days in something like you can be more powerful in the future, because at the end maybe they cannot connect with me, because at the end maybe I'm Salvadorian from another country, I'm still a woman, but maybe they need somebody in the Africa on their own society. So yeah, maybe look somebody in your circle, around your circle, and then, yeah, maybe if they don't know English, for example, that's another barrier, a really big gap is about the language, because most of the content that we already have in English is really good content. At the same time, you can find many scammers, but yeah, just do your own researches. And well, for example, BTC Station is really one of really good educator. It's on YouTube. They can just Google BTC session, and you're gonna find many ideas of how you Bitcoin works, and really uh beginning, really for beginners. So yeah, he has really many tutorials for people like many deep on Bitcoin, but also they have some courses for free just for beginners.
Okay, thank you so much. So our last question for today's session: how can African women, leverage remote jobs opportunities, in global Bitcoin companies, and what
Oh.
qualifications do you think these companies are actually looking for so that these women can also get ready and prep up
Mhm.
themselves as well?
For example, if you're looking for a work in the Bitcoin space first, you need to understand a little bit about Bitcoin. Not
Yeah.
deeply, because not deeply. Uh, and my experience, for example, I start working. I just met one day a Bitcoiner, and you only need one chance to change your life. So you only have to be all in. The same that you're all in on Bitcoin, you have to be all in and to so do something new. For example, in my experience, as I say, I didn't have an idea about video editing, but I just met a Bitcoiner. I was like, oh, you need to do videos, just tell me what you're doing and I will do it. And you can pay me for that. And that's how I work. I didn't have experience truly about Bitcoin. My only knowledge just in that time about Bitcoin was like it was a global, what we call it, like the hardest money, because we know that was scary with a scarcity amount is like 21 million. How would this is work? And at the same time, I didn't know much about Bitcoin. It was like, okay, I just know that why Bitcoin is good for the future and why Bitcoin is too good to be true. So I want to know more. So to me, it was like the experience to do video editing for a Bitcoiner who was doing Bitcoin content. It was my universe career there. It was like I need to understand what he's saying, so I need to Google. I need to get deep to this content to first understand myself and then to edit the video. So that's how I did my, for example, my experience in Bitcoin. Not truly, I was still like a newbie in Bitcoin space, but I started to work in Bitcoin because I really want to earn in Bitcoin. That was
Yeah.
my exciting thing. It was to earn on Bitcoin. So I will say first, understand a little about Bitcoin. We know that Bitcoin is something digital, so whatever skill that you have already in the digital space, like community manager, um, video editing, graphic design, customer support, those are small things that you really want to it's a really good way to understand also Bitcoin, because once you get to Bitcoin and you understand that Bitcoin is important for you and your future, you also want to learn more. And the only way that you can learn more is to have a job, maybe in Bitcoin. As I say, maybe you don't need to be a full Bitcoiner working in a Bitcoin space. If you, for example, if you like to do bakery or you like cooking, maybe you only can do is try to be an entrepreneur and ask to accept Bitcoin. Bitcoin is accepted to you, but maybe you cannot work in the Bitcoin space because it's something more physical. So yeah, it's like it's depend about your skills. You don't have to force yourself to do something that you really don't like, because at
Yeah.
the end it's like you're gonna be truly the same like in your fiat job. It's like not feeling into something that you're really meaningful, but just if you have the qualities to do something in the digital space, for example, educating women to be a voice, just to do something, you can do it first for free, and because at the end it's a proof of work. Proof
True.
of work is very important in Bitcoin space. So it's like
Yeah.
you're gonna start doing some things for free, and if somebody saw a value, it's like, okay, I can do this a try period, or maybe just a try, a test. Oh, I can
Yes.
do social media. I can do a test for you. Just prove your value. If you don't have any experience, prove your value, and then just ask for amount of money. So and you can earn Bitcoin. But yeah, it's as I told you, I just start with one person, and just I need just one opportunity to start in the Bitcoin space, and Bitcoiners don't forget anything. So yeah, at the same time you are in Bitcoin Spanish, you have to be very careful with what projects are you working, or what things are you try to give a voice. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you have to be very careful with that, because if you want to be working in the Bitcoin space, Bitcoiners never forget those things.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
Once again, we have Pamela Posada with us here. She's a Bitcoin-only YouTube strategist, and digital nomad from El Salvador. She is a former fashion designer, empowering women currently to build financial freedom through Bitcoin communities with Sisters to Satoshi. You should check that out. You know, in and around Latin America and of course over the globe. So welcome to Africa. We hope that we get to do a lot of collaborations, and
yeah,
we're thankful for today's session. And I want to tell our viewers out there to please look forward. We have many more sessions coming in. We get to talk, we get to discuss a lot, and see how we could, have a very huge taste of the Bitcoin, ecosystem. So once again, we are BitFi. We are the Bitcoin focused company, and we are dedicated towards global Bitcoin education, like we just did, having financial inclusion and freedom. Here we champion Bitcoin as a tool for economic empowerment, and support Bitcoin focused brands, you know, making sure that we drive the real adoption of Bitcoin in all of our economic ecosystem. So thank you so, so much, Pamela Posada. I had a wonderful, wonderful time. And definitely we want to have you back again very, very soon. Very soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate the invite. I think it was a kind of surprise when I see the message, and I really appreciate it, guys. And I just say I'm really happy to connect with you at the same time because I think we need more people that need to care about about education, about Bitcoin education, because at the end I think that's the way that we can get to more people understand not just about Bitcoin, it's also about money, how the financial society is working right now. What is
So,
important to have a really sovereignty about yourself. So yeah, I really appreciated the kind words and I really appreciated to they invite me.
okay, thank you so much. So that will be all for now, guys. So at this point, we say bye. Thank you.